Welcome back to Coffee and Conversation. So, those of you with sharp eyes will have realized immediately we're using a different camera. More about that later. Right now, let's deal with Audie because I know he has a whole fan group interested in what he's doing. He's in the front window staring at the snow in the neighbor's yard. He has plenty of his own snow to stare at, but he's staring at the neighbor's snow instead. I think maybe when our snow started to melt and he had nothing but the neighbor's snow to look at for a couple of days, I think he just got into the habit of it. So now he is sitting in the front window, staring at the neighbor's snow, waiting for it to melt. I love that cat, but I sometimes get the feeling he's not overly bright. Yellow, and we are going to talk more about this later. Yellow for Catherine, for Lex's mom, for everyone who is dealing with cancer. We are throwing our very, very best wishes out to you. So, when we come back after our brief intro, we are just going to get into my crazy week. So yes, my week was absolutely nuts. And the camera failure frankly, last minute, I didn't know the camera wasn't working until I sat down to film the video. So yeah, that's about as last minute as it gets. And I've just discovered it is not working. I may, in fact, have the old camera somewhere in storage. I'll have to look for that. But of course, I had to get this going, so I didn't have time. Yeah, icing on the cake of the dreadful week. So, as many of you know, we hit sub-freezing temperatures. We actually went down into negative numbers on the Fahrenheit scale here, which is colder than it usually gets in this area. It was only for a couple of days, but of course, a couple of days is long enough for the pipes to freeze. So I have my last 2 days with no hot water. I did have water. I didn't lose all of the water. I lost most of it. I lost the hot water. I lost the cold water to most of my interior faucets. Fortunately, I have an exterior faucet that doesn't freeze up no matter what. Bless its little heart, it's a hard worker, and undoubtedly a legacy of the fact that this, as many of you know, the property was turned into a schoolhouse in 1852. So yeah, and believe me, no matter what anybody says, the weather was a lot colder in 1852 than it is today. By the way, that's not a comment on global warming. Temperature goes up and down all the time. I am old enough to have seen many trends just in my lifetime alone, so they're going to have to go a lot further to convince me that anything unusual is going on these days. But we did have a cold snap. We did have frozen pipes. We did have no hot water for 2 days. We have hot water back now, so all is good. Audie has been irritable about everything. And like I say, icing on the cake, my camera isn't working. So it's hardly the end of the world. I can get another camera. It's, people have much more serious problems than this. And I would have to say that, yeah, this is probably the very freaking definition of first world problems. I had to go outside for water. what a hardship. You know, I'm sure my grandparents are rolling in their graves laughing at me over this. Because let's face it, we are living in a very, very pampered culture in which not having hot and cold running water at our command is like the end of the world. And it certainly was for me. I was sitting around saying, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? And then the absurdity of it dawned on me. And I thought, yeah, I'm going to go out. I'm going to get water. If I have to heat it on the stove, so be it. If I have to leave the dishes for a couple of days, oh well, so be it. My actual point of irritation was I had wanted to do laundry, which was not happening because there was no water going to the washing machine at all. So I couldn't even do it in cold water. But yeah, how pathetically spoiled do we have to be to look at something like this and say, oh my gosh, this is the end of the world? Well, yeah, so definitely I was at that point. And I really need to start to look at my own terribly pampered life and ask myself, am I okay with being a person who will just panic when I turn on a tap and nothing happens? You know, there are people all around the world who don't even have the tap to turn on in the first place. Never mind get hot and cold running water on demand. No, I need to seriously get over this. All right. So that's where we are at. Meanwhile, of course, I've been coping with my semi-bad kitty, my darling Audie. So let me just show you where I found him the last couple of mornings, because I did snap a picture. Yeah, Audie has been snuggled up under the blankets. He has been spending the entire night under the blankets with me, which is very unusual for him. Yes, he sleeps in my bed. Yes, there are many, many times when he will spend the entire night somewhere in the vicinity of my face, upper torso. That's his preferred sleeping spot. Actually, this arm right here, just like this is what he prefers to sleep on. This is his pillow. So I have to extend my arm so he can curl up and sleep on this. So yeah, he's spoiled. That's my fault. But because it's been cold, he's wanted to be under the blankets with me. And he has waited until I've gotten up. He hasn't been waking me out of bed early, which he usually does. So the last couple of days, it's like, no, Mom, I think we're just going to stay in bed. So he does like the cold, but he doesn't quite like as much cold as we've been getting. So at the beginning of this video, I told you we were going to talk about this later, this shirt. And there's a reason for this. This is not just, oh, let's talk about my shirt. I actually went out of my way to get this shirt. This is a women's wool t-shirt. I would have much preferred a man's wool. And the fit is okay, especially if I'm not wearing a wool t-shirt underneath it. Well, actually, this isn't even a t-shirt. This is a long-sleeved shirt. If I am not wearing 3 shirts underneath it, which I am because I wanted to show you the t-shirt, but also, like I say, it's cold here. So, you know, I've had to make some compromises along the way. It actually does fit. That's not the issue, but I prefer the fit of men's t-shirts. I've just gotten used to that over the years. But the reason I wanted to talk to you about this one is, as I say, I went out of my way to get it. And one of the reasons I went out of my way to get it is one of my viewers had said, you should go with that mustard color shirt. And this was some time ago when I was talking about trying to come up with colors that would coordinate throughout my wardrobe. I've mentioned this before, And I know I'm not alone. I know there are plenty of you in roughly the same situation. Different color ranges perhaps, but still, same general theme. Much of my wardrobe is in the range of tans through browns with olive green in there. And I throw the olive in there because it's olive, khaki. They're part of that whole continuum. But I also keep a little bit of black and a little bit of navy. I keep that little bit of black because I have to. All the women out there know exactly what I'm talking about. If you want to buy clothing, you had better become open-minded to the concept of black in your wardrobe, because almost everything is available in black. There may be other colors it's available in, but you will find items available in black before you'll find them available in white. And certainly, black seems to be everybody's go-to color. And yeah, if I want clothes, I kind of have to get accustomed to the concept that there will be some black in my wardrobe, even though I'm not crazy about it. My other dark neutral is navy. I would much rather stick with my shades of brown and maybe a little navy for spice, but the black is in there. So, I know, first world problems again. Gosh, I am going to look back on this video at some point in the future and say, I can't believe that this is the extent of my concerns. All right, anyway, when you are trying to juggle colors, and this is what I was talking about, this is how I got off onto this. When you are trying to juggle colors in your wardrobe and trying to work out mix and match colors, patterns, etc., many of us hit that brick wall sooner or later where we say, okay, I can find items that go with half my skirts and my trousers and my sweaters, thinking in terms of blouses, but they don't go with the other half. So what's next? How do you do that? And I had thrown something similar, I don't remember how I phrased it, out to our viewers, because this is where I get my best ideas from you folks. And of course, you're my best therapists too. Gosh, really, I should sign you all up on my medical insurance, because this is my mental health outlet. It really is. And a lot of you had said, Sue, try maroon and burgundy. It's a nice color. Maroon will go with brown. It will go with olive. It will go with blue. It will go with black. And bingo, you folks are right. So immediately a whole bunch of burgundy accessories went into my wardrobe because I was thrilled by that. And one of our viewers, and this is awful because I cannot find that comment, and I do not recall who it was, had said, try that mustard yellow. Because, yeah, this is a color that will do well with browns, with olive, with blue, with black. Sure. And in fact, I happen to really like the way it looks with navy in particular. So yes, now I have a second color I can pull in as an accent color. And I know you're sitting back thinking, what the devil does this have to do with any of us? But I know a lot of you are, if not in exactly the same boat, in a similar situation. You will have a predominant color in your wardrobe, or perhaps a small cluster of predominant colors, and then trying to fit additional colors in, and it becomes frustrating because no one wants to go into their closet, pull out a blouse, and say, I only have one skirt this goes with. This was not a smart buy, no matter how much I might love this blouse or I might love the skirt it goes with. I think most of us really want more bang for our buck. We want to be able to open that closet door, grab a blouse, and say, cool, I have 4 skirts this will go with. I have 2 pair of slacks. Geez, let me just start pulling out the shoes. You know, that's what we all want to be able to do. We all want to be able to go into the closet, pick one particular item we want to wear, and have a dozen items that go with it. Have that multitude of choices. I know some of us get overwhelmed by that, but I think most of us do not consider being overwhelmed by our choices such a bad thing. So that's why I started looking at this, because, see, my thing is, I couldn't see this. I could not see that there were colors that would bridge the gap between those browns and olives, move them over to navy to black, but you could. And I'm sure some of you were in the same situation I was in, just scratching your heads, but some of you were not, because it's that different perspective, that different set of eyes, that different life experience. Now, I know all about how well colors like maroon or burgundy and that whole range of dark sort of, I don't know, brownish or purplish or blood-colored reds. And they've got a million different names. I know how well they go with navy. The reason why is because in 1966, those were the hot colors. It was cranberry and blueberry. That's what they were calling them. And those were the dominant colors for women's fashions. My advantage? Yeah, I was alive in 1966. I was just beginning to hit my teens and therefore becoming a little fashion conscious. So I remember it. I also remember the 1980s when yellow, not exactly this shade of yellow, more of a, I don't know, a buttercup yellow. Well, I don't know, this is pretty close to buttercup. All right, yellow was being paired with black. That was a hot color combination in the 80s. I'm sure most of you remember that. Or hot pink and black, which again, I remember from the 50s, and Elvis Presley was famous for pink and black. So it's that different perspective, that different life experience that enables us to problem solve for one another. So if I were dealing with a young person who had never lived through the 80s and had no idea what a smashing combination black and yellow can be, and no, it doesn't necessarily make you look like a bumblebee, it really doesn't. If I were talking to a young person who didn't have that experience, then my experience would be very, very useful. On the other hand, I would have to say that, say, my grandmother's experience, combining things like pink and gray, which were, I'm not going to say there were big color combinations in her day. I think it was a little before her time. Nevertheless, that is absolutely something my grandmother could shed light on, and so on. I mean, we all have that different perspective. Not only that, but we all have different things we like, different things that we look at and say, I have always loved the look of this or that. I wore this in high school. When I was working, half my wardrobe was this color. We bring all of that to the party with us. And so I think it's fabulous. Part of this whole thing is I want you to see that I am taking your advice seriously, but I'm also want to point out that your advice is very valuable, because you're right. This is a good color in my wardrobe. And even though I did, in fact, have a couple of t-shirts over the years in this color, I didn't exploit it the way I should. So now that I know what I'm looking for, oh yeah, a lot more of this is going to come into my wardrobe too. But it's the same thing with the maroon. And as I say, many of you had said, maroon will do it. We can do that for each other. So if you have difficulty coordinating things in your wardrobe, if there are areas in which you're looking at a color palette and you feel you're coming up short, throw it out in the comments, because someone is bound to have an answer. And in fact, I get some of my favorite discussion points from your video comments. The comments you make will eventually put me on the trail of another sort of idea for a video somewhere down the line. That happens all the time. So I did want to absolutely throw that out. But again, I think the whole point of this is we all live in our own little boxes, you know, whatever's going on in our heads. And sometimes it's hard to hop out of that box and see that there's more going on. Sometimes we need somebody else to grab us, yank us out of that little thought box and say, hey, try looking at it this way instead. Over the years, many people have said to me, what in the world possessed you to get so much education? Because frankly, I got a lot of it. That is the truth. What is the one thing that you took away from that? And the fact is, there are a gazillion points of view out there. And different people having different points of view is something to be embraced. We don't have to disagree with people just because we have a different point of view. We can look at someone else's point of view and say, may not be mine, but I respect it. And what I want to put out there is, let's take the next step. Yeah, it may not be my point of view, and yes, I should respect it, but you know, it wouldn't kill me to try to see if I could adopt a little of that into my own life, into my own thinking. And that's where I am at this point in my journey to Lord only knows where it is I'm going. But yeah, trying to take a look at other people's points of view. For me, that's hard because I'm convinced I'm right no matter what. I know what I'm doing, nobody else does. But it's these little ways in which you folks are opening my eyes to things I hadn't thought of before. And I'm starting to really see, yes, I am seeing the value in looking at somebody else's experience, looking at somebody else's life, looking at somebody else's way of thinking. And this is a very small way. Throwing a color into my wardrobe, in the overall scheme of things, it's about that big. There are many, many other ways in which I could start doing this. And it would make me a more open-minded person, frankly, and that would be a good thing. But I'm moving into that gradually, and it's probably going to be a struggle, but still, I'm going to get there. So yes, this is symbolic of something, of a more important lesson that I am starting to incorporate into my life. That it's high time, you know. Wouldn't it have been nice if I figured this out when I was in my 30s? I know. But I didn't. Better late than never. So, yeah, that is what I wanted to throw out. The immediate instantiation of this is I now have more color choices in my wardrobe, and they work for me. fantastic. But the bigger picture is little things like this are encouraging me to become more open to other people's points of view and other people's ideas. And with any luck at all, that will eventually make me a better human being. I mean, I can hope. That is sort of my goal. At some point, I wish to become the best person I can be. And it's movement along the journey. So I guess ultimately what I wanted to share with you was on two levels. This very, very superficial and unimportant issue of expanding the color choices in my wardrobe while still making sure everything hangs together. And then the bigger issue that things like your suggestions on color choices have opened up to me, which is, learning to accept other people's opinions, learning to look around and say somebody else has something worthwhile that I can adopt into my own life, and ultimately I will be the better for it. So that is what I have for you today. A yellow shirt and some deep philosophical ramblings that will hopefully get me to a better place. I mean, isn't that what we all want? We look around at life and think, I hope this makes a better person of me in the end. So there you go. I will keep you apprised of what Audie is up to. At the moment, I think we're going to spend the weekend with Audie sitting in the window watching Matt's snow melt. I don't know what to say. All right, let's take a look at a slideshow on the way out. I am actively looking forward to your comments. Remember, they are very important to the channel. They are very important to me personally. All right, so slideshow. Meanwhile, have a terrific day.